Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's webinar. Tonight we're excited to welcome Julie from Repro360 to discuss maximising your results this breeding season. Just a few little housekeeping things before we get started. If you have any questions during tonight's webinar, there's a little Q&A function at the bottom that you can send through any questions you have, and we'll just answer them at the end. So during the webinar, you can send them through at any time. If you have any issues at all, there is a chat function that you can send through a message and we can try and help you out. There will be a recording available after the webinar as well in a couple of days, so we will send that out to everyone as well. So I will hand over now to Julie to get started. Thank you, Julie.
Awesome, thanks Michaela. Sorry, I couldn't get my unmute to work then for a second. So hopefully that's the last of our technology glitches. But no, thanks guys for having us along tonight. Obviously it's close to end. Most of you guys are probably into your breeding season for this year, but we thought it was still a good chance to have a chat around utilising artificial breeding if you're not, but also a way to help you maximise your overall success. The agenda for the night. See if we can get, there we go. Agenda for the night is we're going to go through a bit of an introduction to Repro360 and our team. So let you guys know what we're about. A quick overview of bovine reproduction cycle. What does what in a synchronization program? So getting a good understanding of what drugs we use and why we use them. Some tips to maximize your results and what further resources are available to you. And then we're going to have plenty of time for questions. So don't be shy, use that question function down the bottom and throughout, if you put a question there throughout, and that way if we haven't covered them, we'll cover them at the end. So Repro360 is the cattle side of Vetiquinol. And the Repro360 team is a completely dedicated bovine repro company, part of the company, and we're headed by Sophia Edwards. So Soph's our technical and marketing manager. Most people have met Soph, but all of her, she's got a PhD and postdoctoral fellowship on improving the management and understanding fixed time AI and northern beef production herds. So when it comes to extensive programs in that artificial breeding space, Soph's got a wealth of knowledge and experience, so she's a really great resource that we have to answer those questions. Myself, so I cover New South Wales, basically north of Sydney, Queensland, WA. So my background, obviously fifth generation cattle producer, so we run a seed stock operation and utilize a lot of artificial breeding, and obviously this job, I've been with these guys almost 3 years, was a really great fit for me and an awesome company to be a part of. Rebecca Arnott's our marketing manager, so she gets to look after all of our branding and fun stuff, so putting these sorts of presentations together, and helps me do all of that nice finessey stuff. But she's got a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the business side of all cattle rural industry. So she, as you can see, she's had quite an extensive array of different companies that she's worked at. So yeah, a really great wealth of knowledge there with Beck. And then for your Southerners, we've got Shane. So Shane's been in the industry 25 years. Shane's a great guy as well. So anybody south of Sydney and Southern, if you guys, anybody there, Shane's your man. And then anybody over the ditch that might be on here, we've got Nick Murphy based in New Zealand. So I wanted to just do a little bit of just a quick refresher and remembering around the normal estrus cycle of cows, which is the period from one estrus to another. So that, which is basically their heat or their phase of sexual receptivity to the next estrus, generally being 21 days, but can range from 18 to 24. So that's something we need to keep in mind, especially with heifers. They can trick you up and cycle a little early. When we look at the normal estrus cycle, this diagram I think is a great one. So when we talk around reproduction and synchronizing cows and utilizing artificial breeding, we sort of think, okay, we throw a few drugs in there and it's really simple. But when you have a look at this diagram, you can actually see how many different hormones are at play and things that are happening in the background just in a cow's normal cycle. So this is just normally what happens. So if you have a look at the diagram, the purple circles, that's the follicles. Cows generally have 3 follicular waves in a normal 21-day cycle. So they will have a reservoir, which is the little ones. Can you see my pointer, Michaela? Can you just...
No, I can't see a pointer.
Okay, that's okay. I don't know how to make that work. Anyway, so you guys, if you can see the little purple dots down the bottom, there's a little reservoir of purple dots, and then they obviously grow, and you'll see 3 waves of those, from the 0 at one end to the 0 at the other. So that's what generally happens. Now, those follicular waves are stimulated by a few different hormones, and that's the LH, which is the red line, and the LH surges just before ovulation. We've got FSH, which is a broken black line. So anybody doing ET work, FSH, that's what foltropin is. So it's follicle stimulating hormone. And that helps to stimulate and feed those follicles to grow so that we get a nice mature follicle at ovulation. Estradiol, that's the green line that we'll also see peaking just before ovulation. So estradiol is another one of the drugs that we use. And then progesterone, so that's the yellow line. You'll see that it's the one that dips prior to ovulation, but through the middle of their cycle, that's when it's its highest. And then we have our CL that's produced post-ovulation, which is the big yellow circle. So this sequence of hormones and physiological changes is pretty intense. And as you can see, there's so much going on with that slide, but it's good just to have that understanding that, there's a lot going on in the background, and we need to understand that before we start looking at how we're going to synchronize those cows if we're looking at artificial breeding, so a fixed time program or AIing. So Bos Indicus cow reproductive management. If you ever get the opportunity to jump onto our site and have a look at Enoch Bergman's presentation from Beef this year, it's about AIing heifers. And this is something that I think we can really utilize from a Droughtmaster perspective, because when you have a look at postpartum anestrus, so the time that it takes from those cows to calve down to when they'll actually start cycling naturally again, in a 3-year-old first calver, that can be up to 134 days. So if we're trying to have our calving window down to every 365 days, so 12 monthly roughly, that doesn't add up when our gestation is 290 days. So we need to start thinking about how can we get our heifers to calve down, but more importantly, how do we get them back in calf and retain those females as part of the herd and have them calving down every year with the rest of the mob when we put the bulls out. And AI is a really great way to do that, because we want to try and maximize the amount of time that they have before you put the bulls out when they're first calvers, and give them the best opportunity to get back in calf, because that's when they're going to remain in the herd. So maximizing your success can be as simple as that. Joining those heifers through a round of AI that has them calving before or right at the beginning of your calving season gives those heifers more time to actually start cycling again. And that means that you're actually going to have a better chance to get them back in calf. But it's really cool when you look at the other data that it actually is up to year 8 before you actually see a statistical difference in those heifers and the ones that were joined to the bull, if they're still there. So the heifers that are just joined at the same time as the rest of your cows and calving at the same time as the rest of your cows, you'll lose quite a high percentage of those females out of your herd if you're culling on empties as second calvers. So this is a really good thing just to remember, when we're managing these females, we need to understand how can we maximize our results to keep those females in the herd. And I think it's more important now than ever, with females being the price that they are, and we're all trying to rebuild. So how do we not only, rebuild, but keep our own females in our herd? So this one I think is really important. So when we look at artificial breeding programs, so some fixed time programs, this is one really common, so a heifer and cow forehandling program. This is a great one. It's really reliable. It's great for wet cows. And, it's just a program that does work nicely. You have 4 yardings, it's really predictable, and it's really commonly used. So remember back to our slide where we had a look at all of the different hormones that are at play. All of the hormones that we use when we're synchronizing females are the ones that are naturally occurring. So we have a look on day 0, we would insert a cumate. Now this is where it gets different cows to heifers. So it's really important to make sure that we have the right drug doses, and there is a difference between cows and heifers. So synchronizing heifers, we would go with a 1 pod cumate, and so that's a lower dose of progesterone. But with wet cows, we need to make sure we've got enough progesterone on our side, and so we would always go with 2. So that 2 pods, so a full progesterone device for those wet cows. So that's initially, and we'd also adjust our estradiol benzoate dose. So estradiol, remember that being one of the other hormones that we saw on that chart. So it's important to make sure that we don't give too much, and we use a lower dose at the start there of that, just so we don't go and shut the ovaries down on those heifers. We leave the cumate in for 8 days, and then we remove it and give them a prostaglandin shot. So that's going to get rid of that CL and is going to actually stimulate those heifers to ovulate. So with this program, you know, compared to previous ones that you might have used with either just a cumate or just a PG, the difference with that is we were synchronizing estrus. With these programs, we're synchronizing ovulation. And so there is a few more steps. So on day 8, we would pull those out in the morning. Day 9, they would get a lower dose of estradiol, so lower than initially, as you can see with the cows, on day 9 in the morning. And then on day 10 in the afternoon is when you would AI. And you've got a window there of, you know, usually 4 to 6 hours to AI that mob. So it's quite simple. It works really well. And it's a really predictable program. And, you know, for handlings, we find, you know, those last 3 days, yes, you are handling them daily, but heifers tend to handle it really, really well. 2 other programs that are a little bit different. So the top one being the JSync program. This is only a 3 handling one, and it's getting some great results. Some people on day 9 are actually splitting their AI and actually doing 2 rounds using heat detection with Estratec stickers, and that works really nicely as well. The JSync does allow you to reduce your handlings by 1, and you have a bigger window between removal of the cumate and PG shot out to when we actually AI. And it allows for that follicle to naturally mature along a little and tick along in the background. And, you know, you set up exactly the same. So this is a way that if it works with your management system, we can reduce your handling by 1. So you've only got 3 handlings instead of 4, and the results have still been going really great. If any of you have EU compliant herds, it does get a little bit trickier for heifers. And we do have a few more steps that we need to put in place. But as you can see, there's an example of an EU accredited program, because estradiol benzoate or estradiol in general, you can't use if you are EU accredited. It's one of the hormones that are not allowed. It's actually only allowed in Australia and South America. So New Zealand, North America, Canada, and all of Europe, you actually can't use estradiol products. So there is, you know, it's a little bit more intensive. You do need to add some heat detection on there to get good results. And it's certainly something that we can talk with you over if you are an EU herd. You can still get great results. It just takes a little bit more effort. I just wanted to replay this slide, just to re-show you guys and remember. So all of those programs, where it's designed is, we've got this window here where we put the bulls out, you know, usually a 75-day service period, but it's 30 days at least before that cow's going to cycle. So you've got 40 days, which is usually 2 cycles that we're wanting those females to go back and calf. And so, you know, as I said, those heifers, and it's really important to make sure we can try and maximize their chances of going back in calf, and joining them early as heifers is certainly one way to help them do that. So let's have a look at some tips. So we actually did a lot of surveying of the leading repro specialists, both vets and technicians throughout Australia and globally actually. And we wanted to put together some tips for success. So when we have a think about our breeding season, things that we need to look at, especially with artificial repro, is assessing the mob that you're dealing with. Reproduction is not a one size fits all. And this is where we find that we get producers that get amazing results, is because they have that in the back of their mind, that they won't use always just the same protocol for every single mob of cattle that they're dealing with. They really fine tune things and utilize different technologies to really drive their results. And you think about it, what's an extra 5% pregnancies to that AI program look like? And you know, it can really pay big dividends. it's important to select the right females. There's no point at the end of this season, you've had the bulls out and go, right, I'm going to preg test and then I'm going to AI those females that aren't pregnant to the bull. You're probably setting yourself up for failure if you're chasing results, because those are your more subfertile females, especially in a season like we're having where most people are getting good rain and we've got feed kicking off already. So the third thing being vitamin N, so nutrition, potentially may not be at play. So selecting your right females. If you're wanting to IVF and ET females and also looking at recips, it's really important with those recips to make sure that you're selecting the right ones, and certainly contact us around that and we can walk you through it. Ensure your nutrition has your females on a rising plane. But in this season, we also need to make sure that our females are not too fat. We need to be careful of lots of clover, lots of lucerne, and things like, fast growing ryegrasses and things, because they can also affect our results. And we saw a lot of that through New South Wales last year. Vaccination and herd health, make sure we have that right, and plan ahead. Shipping at the moment is a nightmare, and getting things around the country is really, really difficult. So make sure you organise your semen drugs, and especially booking your technician. These guys are run off their feet at the moment well in advance. So book those things in, because the last thing you want, and we've had a few programs this season already where the semen hasn't arrived. So we've got cows synchronized and no semen. So that's obviously something that's important to have on farm if we're going to go to the expense and the effort of synchronizing them. Make sure your semen's there. When you're getting close to it, make sure you discuss and set the best protocol for the mob that you're dealing with. Now, if you're AIing cows and heifers, or if you've got recips that you're synchronizing for IVF or ET, have a discussion with an expert. Give our team a call, give your technicians a call and say, right, what's going to be the very best? What's the latest up-to-date information on what you would do for this group of cows? Be willing to put in a little bit of extra work and pay attention to detail. That will really set you up for success. Set yourself some realistic expectations. You've already hopefully done a lot of discussion around the best protocol, understanding the mob you're dealing with. So set some realistic expectations for that mob, and then that's going to really help you to feel good about the results. And if you smash it at your expectations out of the water, that's great. But don't think just because we're having a great season that it's going to change your results if you don't change other things. Don't be afraid to ask for help and support. So the really cool part of my job is that I get to get in the field and actually do some on-farm training. I'll come out and help you put your devices in. We'll do one-on-one consultations, involving Sophie if we need to, just to really fine-tune your programs to make sure that you're maximising every little thing that you can do to get yourself the best return on that investment this season. Now, during your program and AI day, make sure you be clean and work your cattle as stress-free as possible. Ensure all of the injections are given correctly and drugs are stored correctly, especially injectable hormones. Whether it says it on the label or not, when you're not using them, please make sure they're in the fridge. And if you're using products like GnRH, they really need to remain cold. So have an esky at the yards and keep those hormones chilled, just to help to protect them. And there's been a lot of work lately in the last few years around efficacy of hormones when they're kept chilled versus when they're kept at room temperature. And we do know that they are more effective when they're kept chilled. Ensure the cattle are not held off feed or water for too long is also another one. So as you're looking, vitamin N, it's amazing what a big impact that can make. So a big drop in nutrition or nutritional stress around AI time can actually make a difference to your results. So making sure we keep those cattle stress-free, food and water on AI time, and work them as smoothly as possible. We've got heaps of how-to videos and resources on the Repro360 website. There's also access to some great webinars, and Enox is on there around his MLA trial on AIing heifers. So jump on there. It's just repro360.com.au, and you can find some great resources. We've got, there's even some international ones on there. There's technical updates constantly, and we've got this AI tips handout here, and it's on there that you can look it up, and it goes through all of those things that, like for that previous slide. The other thing we have is a calving calculator, which is really cool. I use it all the time, and it's just an app, and you can punch in your joining dates, and it'll actually calculate all your calving dates for you. So, you know, the wheels are great, but I always tend to lose those calving wheels. So the calculator is awesome. You can just download that. So that is a great resource. So this is a part where I wanted to be able to open up to you guys, and hopefully I've given you some ideas of things to fine tune for this year if you haven't already. But a lot of it's around that planning and getting things right and using the right drugs at the right time in your programs and selecting the right females if you're using them as recips. So I'll hand over. I don't know if we've had any jump up, but if there is some questions that anybody would like to jump on, please do so.
Yeah, guys, so if you have any questions, please send them through. Nothing have come through as of yet, but there's just a little Q&A box at the bottom, and you should be able to just type in your question and send it through.
Can they ask the question, Michaela? Is that possible? We haven't got a whole lot on here if they can't type it.
Yeah.
I wanted to allow a lot of time for questioning, just so you guys, I find this is the part that generally takes the longest in the previous ones that I've done. So yeah, jump on.
Yeah, I think if I allow everyone to talk, I think it'll let everyone do it.
Yeah, cool. And people can jump on and ask a question if they've got one, if they can't type. There's not a huge amount there. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah. But yeah, if you'd like to ask a question, you just unmute yourself, and you should be able to ask a question then.
You there, Julie?
yeah, far away.
Just worried, like the lead up to joining or AIing, what nutrients are you looking at?
Yeah, look, that's certainly something. It's going to vary from place to place. So having a look at any deficiencies that you might have for your area. Certainly nutrition is the area that for me is probably not my strong point, but we work with quite a few nutritionists these days that come in and you know, we work with them and make sure they're good. I know something that we always look at doing is, you know, 6 to 8 weeks out from joining, we look at using multi-min or the new one. There's a new one that's out that's also great, and A, D, and E. So vitamin A is a big one that, especially on your recips, that I know a lot of the ET vets find that vitamin A is really good for getting those embryos to stick and stay. So there has been some work in that area. So it's certainly something that I would make sure you've got them on a rising plane. Protein's important, and having the vitamin and minerals that are in for your area. If you know your soil's deficient in things, so phosphorus, you know, I was really surprised. We thought we had our nutrition right where we were, and I put out a straight phos lick on top of the cows having a dry lick with phos in it. It was amazing how much they took of that straight phos lick. And we know that phosphorus has certainly been shown to improve fertility. So I would be looking at those things and having a talk to a nutritionist in your area that knows where your country falls short, definitely. And you want to give yourself 6 to 8 weeks out from breeding where you can.
Yeah, right. Thanks for that.
Hi, Julie. I just wonder if I could ask a question, please.
Fire away.
Just wanting to know about clover and affecting, you had mentioned clover before affecting.
Yeah, so any of our, I'm just turning it on, not so you better. So yeah, clover, lucerne, those things can, if you've got large amounts of them, so they're anything that's got high phytoestrogens in them. So fast growing ryegrass and those things, if they're getting a lot of access to that, they can actually affect their fertility. So we see that a lot. And like I did mention, a lot of the southern guys last year when they had an amazing break after the drought, and a lot of them had ryegrasses and things in, and they all had reduced pregnancies, and it was just the balance of that feed. So the quickest way, and I've done it myself and learnt the hard way, I'd use some grassy lucerne hay instead of straight grass or cereal hay, and I had all of my donors in an ET program all over respond. And the only thing we changed was the lucerne. So lucerne, clover, ryegrasses, a few other ones that just be cautious of having large amounts in your AI groups or your recip groups. And it's to do with the estrogen.
Do we have any more questions for Julie?
Awesome.
Okay. Well, I'll take that as a no.
But yeah, my details are there. So if it's something that you didn't want to ask, or it's something that you think about in the next couple of days, don't be afraid to flick me an email, text, or give me a call. That's what we're here for, is to obviously answer those questions. And if we can't, point you in the right direction and get you in contact with, Scott, in your example, get you in contact with the nutritionist in your area to give you the lowdown on that. And we've got a lot of specialists across all of Australia and internationally that at our fingertips. So it's certainly something we can help you with.
Yeah.
Short and sweet tonight.
Yeah.
Not a lot of questions.
Bit of a quick one for you tonight, Julie.
Sometimes it obviously varies, but sometimes we get lots and lots of questions. So I try to keep the presentation not death by PowerPoint, and give you guys lots of chance to ask stuff. So.
Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight, Julie. I think there's definitely a lot of information there for everyone to get out of the webinar tonight, and we will definitely have a recording out to everyone in the next couple of days as well. So we might let you all go, and we will be back in 2022 with some more webinars for everyone as well. So thank you, Julie, and thank you everyone for joining tonight.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Michaela.